is up, everybody? Welcome back to BMW E90HQ. So today I wanted to do my Stage 2 tune review with my downpipes and everything on the car, but the weather's just not cooperating. It's not really raining too bad, and the weather's actually really nice, like temperature-wise, but the roads are just wet, and I'm just not trying to just spin tires in my review. So I thought I would go ahead instead and do a video and talk about M54 reliability problems. So the M54 is known as one of the great tuning engines of all time, kind of ranks right up there with the 2JZ. I'm not calling it the German 2JZ, but it does have its similarities, so you have to acknowledge that. But it's easy to look at BMW's current lineup with the B58, the N63, you know, all these, every engine in there has a turbo on it. I don't think BMW makes an NA engine anymore at all. I'm pretty sure that the N52 was the last naturally aspirated inline six. And, you know, so it's easy to say that the N54 was kind of an experimental engine. BMW kind of has a track record of using their customers as the test mules, so you know, it kind of makes sense anyway. So needless to say, their first turbocharged mass production engine in many years, since the Turbo 2002, I believe. So this car has quite a lot of issues. Now the earlier models 07 and 08 seem to have a little bit more issues, but most of that was when the cars were new, like in 07, 08, maybe 2009 and 10 even. But as time's gone on, fixes have been introduced. BMW tried to right the wrongs by offering extended warranties and stuff, particularly in North America, where it seems like the higher sulfur content of the fuel caused a lot of these issues with the fuel systems. So shout out to BMW for at least trying to make it right. But now at this point, most of them are beyond the extended warranty periods. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the common problems. I compiled a list just to make sure I didn't forget anything. Now, just because something is on this list does not mean that you will have this problem, and just because something is not on this list does not mean that you won't have this problem. I've had problems that are not on this list, and I probably won't get every problem on this list, hopefully, because it's kind of a long list. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So let's start off. It's a twin turbo inline six engine, and the turbos are known to fail. So symptoms of turbo failing could be wastegate rattle, the 30FF code. You could have, there are a lot of issues. Earlier models, they had an issue with the wastegate actuator design that was corrected later on. And BMW offered an 8-year, 82,000 mile extended warranty on the turbos for certain models. Pretty much all of them are older than 8 years old now, so that's really not a thing anymore. We're now in 2019. So, you know, you're probably not going to be under warranty. Wastegate rattle does not mean your turbos are necessarily bad. It just means that you've got wastegate rattle. But it could be a symptom. So if you have wastegate rattle, you should be starting to save your pennies and getting ready for a major expense down the road. And because it could cost you anywhere to like $3,000 to get new turbos and have them installed. A lot of people at this point just choose to go with upgrade, whether it be single turbo, upgraded twins, because you're already going to pay the labor if you pay somebody else to do it. So you might as well, you know, get some more power while you're at it. Moving on, further down the boost system, charge pipe, a huge failure point. Even on stock boost, they're made out of plastic and they can just crack, explode, whatever. You know, this pretty much happened without warning. The 30FF code again, low boost. Basically, the only way to correct for this is to get an aluminum charge pipe. Here's a lower charge pipe, aluminum one from VRSF. I ordered both, an upper and lower. The upper is a lot easier to install, and from doing my research, if you have an 09 and up, you don't really need an upgraded lower charge pipe. They're considerably stronger. And so I'm just holding on to this in case the lower charge pipe breaks, but I do have an aluminum upper charge pipe in there from VRSF, and it's been great, you know, no issues. It's got a little wiggle room at the throttle body, but the seal is good. Very good quality for, you know, what it is, very affordable. Definitely recommend that for some peace of mind. Very easy install too, easy DIY. There are several other alternatives. You get ARM, Active Auto Work, CPE. There's a million charge pipes for this car. So, you know, it's just kind of what you want for your car. So another huge common problem with this, and you will have this problem, there's just no getting around it, is carbon buildup on the intake ports. So basically with direct injection cars, you don't have fuel spraying on the back of the intake ports because your fuel is being directly injected into the cylinder, as the name suggests. The M54 is a direct injected motor, so you're gonna have this issue. Turbochargers just make it worse because the increased pressure increases the blow-by, which goes through the PCV system back into the intake, comes down the intake ports and leaves carbon deposits, plus blow-by from the combustion process coming out of the cylinder and back into the intake ports, more carbon buildup. So one way, you're not going to get rid of this problem, but one way you can kind of, make it less frequent is an oil catch can or possibly a vent to atmosphere setup. So this car has a pretty complex PCV system. You have a high and a low side. I currently have an oil catch can on the low side, and the high side, and it's definitely doing its job. When I checked it last time, there was like maybe half a cup of oil in there. I'm not really sure. I'm not really great with measurements on eyeballing them, but that would be my guess, about half a cup of oil, maybe a little bit less. There's a decent amount in there. And so if you have carbon buildup and it's really bad, you could experience a loss of horsepower. You could experience misfires, sometimes without any codes even, just because the airflow is so disrupted. It can look pretty bad. I'll superimpose a picture here from what my car looked like when I had it done, and mine wasn't really that bad, but it still looked nasty. All cars with direct injection suffer from this. That Cadillac over there has some carbon buildup on it, but it's a non-turbo motor, and it hasn't gotten bad enough to cause any issues. So for now, it's just, it is what it is. So another issue is the fuel injectors on these cars. So they use like what's called a Piezo Injector. The idea behind it is that you can get like an ultra lean burn for emissions purposes and that stuff. But with the high sulfur content in fuel across the world, particularly in the North American market, they were never able to achieve this, and they just had all sorts of problems with them. And in later generations just went to a solenoid type of injector on the N55 and later models. So yeah, it's just not a really good experiment. You can get carbon buildup on the injectors. They can get stuck open. They can get a messed up spray pattern. I think they're on index 13 now, so 13 revisions to these injectors. Pretty much they will fail unless you have index 11 or 12, or I guess 13 now. I've heard that index 9 is by far the worst. I have 6 index 7 injectors, no issues. They do tick a lot. It's kind of annoying, but data logs look really good. They shoot up to 234.95, I think is what it is, immediately after throttle liftoff. So everything is all good as far as they're concerned. So if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it, but I do have it in the back of my mind, and I'm saving up some money for the day that they do fail. Can you prevent injector failure? You can run injector cleaner through your car maybe every oil change or so. Chevron Techron is what BMW recommends. Just run it through. It could help. You can, to keep carbon from building up, you could run the car at high RPMs for extended periods of time down the highway. All these things can help prevent. They're not going to fix something that's already broken, but they could help. And if you don't think they help, then, don't do them, basically. What symptoms would be of bad injectors? You'd have misfires, possibly again with no codes, lean codes, bad air to fuel ratios, just not running very well in general. Certain things to look out for like that. This is another one that you will have if you own an M54. You will have ignition system problems. You will get a misfire from a bad coil, bad plug. These cars they just do. The ignition system wasn't that great from the factory. 10,000, 15,000 miles is a long time if you have a tuned N54 for the coils to last. Tuning it will make your ignition system go faster. The additional heat, the increased stress on the system. Mine has been in there, my plugs and coils have been in there about 11,000 miles now, and I'll probably be ordering another set from FC Puro with their lifetime guarantee so that I have it on standby for when I start getting misfires again. And also, one thing about this is when you change your plugs and coils, you need a 14-point star, or 12 points. it's a 14.14 millimeter. There we go, 14.14 millimeter with the slim wall. If you have the regular one, it won't fit in there, so you definitely need the slim one. You'll get misfires. It's pretty, standard. It'll be easy to figure out. If you figure out which cylinder it's on, you can swap the coil with another cylinder to see if it is the coil. Pretty easy to test for. Alright, making our way back to the fuel system now. The high pressure fuel pump is a common failure point, especially on models with the older design. Now, pretty much if you have an N54 that has, north of 60 to 70,000 miles, chances are the high pressure fuel pump has been replaced once. The revised part can fail, but it's a lot less likely to fail than the original part. You could get misfires on multiple cylinders, once again, sometimes with no code. You can get specific codes for the high pressure fuel pump, long crank times. There's really nothing you can do to prevent the high pressure fuel pump from failing. You just kind of have to be on the lookout for it. Sometimes it can fail without warning, I've heard, but generally it will give one of these symptoms, such as the misfires at wide open throttle on multiple cylinders and long starting times, long crank times. The high pressure fuel pump works by it receives fuel from the low pressure fuel pump, which is in the tank, and then it pressurizes that even more to pressure north of 3,000 psi and blast it directly into the cylinder through the injectors. And so if your car can't make that high pressure that it needs, your car will basically be inoperable and in limp mode. Okay, so this problem here is with the DME, and this is really specific to the older models. So there's MSD 80 in 07s and 08s, and they're garbage. They'll fry your MOSFETs. You'll have all sorts of problems. Your dash will light up like a Christmas tree. You'll be stuck in low power mode. It can happen to the newer models with the MSD 81s, but it's unlikely. One way to check which one you have is if you have MHD, for instance. Probably with the JB4 you can do this, but I'm not 100% because I've never owned a JB4. When you do your read DME codes, it will or your data logging or anything, it will tell you what software you have. If you have an MSD81, it will say it'll be IJE0S. If you have MSD81, it will be IA0S. And you may never, even if you have the older one, it may never fail, but it's a lot more likely that it will than if you have the MSD 81 model. So now we have a few things that are more just common BMW problems and E90 problems, not just N54 problems. So the water pump, the whole cooling system basically is garbage. I did a video on this a long time ago. I'll find it, card it for you if you want to check it out. Water pump failure, coolant hose breaking, expansion tank exploding, all of that is a common E90. It's a common BMW problem, really. You have the unholy trinity of gasket failures, being the oil filter housing gasket, and in this car you also have the oil cooler gasket that's all grouped in the same area, the valve cover gasket, the oil pan gasket. These will just happen. Rubber that is heated and cooled continuously will break down. It's really nothing you can do. One thing that will help is adding additional cooling to the car. Whether you're running it on max cool, you upgrade the oil cooler, radiator, anything you can do to bring temperatures down will extend the life of these gaskets. However, BMW's just never figured out how to make a good gasket, and they fail. So it is what it is. It's something, if you own these cars, you learn to live with. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of the matter. Then there's Vanos. Any BMW that has Vanos will probably at some point see 2A87 or 2A88 or both. Each one of those just correlates to which solenoid it is. Easiest way to deal with this first is to pull them out, clean them with like engine degreaser, clean them up real good, and swap them and put them back into the car and see if the codes follow or if they just go away. If the codes do not go away or they follow a particular solenoid, you know that's the one that you need to be replacing. They're not particularly expensive, and if you've replaced them once, they'll probably last a good long time. This car has 100,000 miles on it. As far as I'm aware, it's running on the original Vanos solenoids. I did clean them about a week ago. It's really easy to do. I also have a video on how to do that I did on my M52. If If you want to check that out, I'll card that video. And then the last common problem is the Mechatronics Sleeve. So this is the transmission. So if you have the ZF 6-speed, there's like a Mechatronics is a combination of the word electronics and mechanics. And it's the wiring that goes from the TCU into the transmission that controls the mechanical parts of the transmission. And there's a seal, and it can fail, and it will leak out transmission fluid, and could eventually get to the point where you have low transmission fluid. But mine is good. I've heard it's a pretty common problem, but I've never seen one in person fail, but apparently a common problem, and transmission problems are never a good thing. So always a good idea to keep your eye on your transmission. Just, if you get under the car, maybe once a month or something, or just have a look at it. Good idea. So anyway, guys, like I said at the beginning of this video, just because something is on this list does not mean it will happen to you, and just because something is not on this list doesn't mean it will never happen to your BMW N54. These are just some common problems that are out there, and probably the most frequent of them all. So, if you found this video informative, please do leave it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you are new, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.